Welcome to the new sound of online radio. Welcome to the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network.
'Cause you make me feel like I've been locked out of heaven.
A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at UBNradio.com.
It's time for the Bonnie Sher Show, a whirlwind of wit, wisdom, celebrity, and the boomer life. With a little bit of this and a lot of that and so much more you don't want to miss, here's Bonnie.
I guess that's my turn now, is it? Well, hello, and welcome to the Bonnie Sher Show. I am your host, Bonnie Sher, so welcome to all of you old friends and new and far away and close by. Want to thank you for joining us here today. I'm here to guide you through the worlds of celebrity, the great boomer generation, and of course the type 1 diabetes community. So sit back, make yourself comfortable, and I would really love it if one of you or many of you would choose to call in with your questions. You're all so shy. But we're ready for you, and the number here in the studio is 323-843-2826, or you can tweet the hashtag #BeShareRadio on Twitter. So let's get started. Now, before we get this show on the road, I would like to thank I do this every week. Don't you think I could remember? Well, apparently not today. Okay, we all know who I am now. And now why we're here, and before I get the show on the road, which I promise you will happen very shortly, but it's who we are here with today. I'm going to put this microphone in my ear. That's going to be the end. Okay, I'm trying like heck to introduce my first guest, who is a TV and film writer. He's a producer. He's an author. He's a TV host. He's a Marine. And he's here to chat with us today, and that's Greg Pope White. And we also have with us my T1 co-host, who is Jacob Chojnacki. Close enough. I think I'm better off spelling it, but look him up. You're going to love him and want to know. Now we get to, I'd really like to acknowledge jazz great Wayne Cobham for having written my super duper hero theme song, and to Corey Bowen of Crown and Anchor Jewelry for letting me wear the jewelry that I have on today in exchange for a promotional mention. So promotionally speaking, thank you, Corey. Now, when we come back, TV writer, world traveler, and, watch me spit this one out, inveterate bon vivant. And and Marine. And of course, I'm talking about none other than Greg Pope White. Welcome, Greg. Oh, wait. We don't welcome you yet. I was kidding. We have to do a little breaky poo first.
Your life story is more than the things you do. It's a story built on the moments you make today the impact you have on others. How big is your story going to be? Live your legend.
And welcome back. Now, I would like to introduce you to author of The Pink Marine, producer, and cooking show host, Greg.
Thank you, Bonnie. That's a great introduction. All those hyphenates after my name, it just really means I need a job always. I'm always looking for the
But
next
I
job.
love your honesty in everything you do.
I'll take any job you've got. Let's go. I mean, maybe that's part of the Marine Corps training, but let's just get it done.
Well, we're starting off talking about the Pink Marine, which was really going to be filleta. You know, like the Catskills, you eat and you take it back, and it's filleta. So this too is a treasure filleta. But seeing as we're here already, could you give the audience a little? I mean, there's got to be people wondering, what the heck is this man talking about? How did you happen to become a Marine? I mean, I love the Marines. There's nothing wrong. I'm sorry. How did you make it to? I mean, what was it?
So you mean something's not adding up? You Google Marine and you look at me and you're like, something's not. How did it show the math? You want me to show the math?
Yeah.
Okay. I was not raised in a military background. I had no idea what the Marine Corps was. I just finished my first year of college. My best friend called and he said that he was joining the Marine Corps. He'd be in Paris Island for the summer, going to boot camp, and he'd finish in time for his sophomore year of college. And all I really heard in that 30-minute conversation was summer camp. And I thought, I love summer camp. And I love boots. And Paris. So I instantly said, I'll go with you. And he said, you don't know, you can't go. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know anything about the military. They'll eat you alive. And I said, look, if you can do it, I can do it. Neither one of us thought about that at the time. Being gay was illegal in the military. So we just went on down and signed up. And
Now, I have one quick question. Was the friend gay as well?
no, he's straight. He
didn't make any mention to you that maybe this was going to
we
be...
weren't thinking about it.
Oh, no, you were going to camp.
Summer camp. I was going to end up with like
In
a
Paris.
wallet or, yeah.
I would have gone too.
Maybe improve my archery skills, canoe a little bit. I didn't know. And then when I was at the recruiter's office and he started playing a videotape of training. And I saw these guys with shaved heads carrying rifles and running through the woods. I thought, wait a second. Green clothes? It's just not one of my colors. No. But I went in, I survived and stayed for 6 years. And honestly, it's not just...
6 years.
I ended up a sergeant. I also went to officer candidate school. It's the greatest experience of my life. I was an aimless teenager, not directed at any one thing in particular. I was raised by a single mother. I didn't have a lot of authority and direction in my life. And if you need authority and direction, just join the Marine Corps. They've got plenty of it waiting for you.
Where were you living at that time? Where did you grow up?
I was in Dallas, and I joined in New Orleans. You know, I'd never been away for 13 weeks, which is how long Marine Corps boot camp is longer than others because, plus, if I'm going to pick a service, I'm going to pick the Marines. I do like the best. So they said, you're going to be gone for 13 weeks. So I showed up in New Orleans, Louisiana, where we were shipping out with 5 suitcases. I needed options. What if there were formal nights? So, of course, you can't even take a toothbrush. I think you can take a photograph of someone you love.
Or someone you don't.
That fits in your wallet. Yeah, I think you take a photograph, and I forget, maybe one other thing. I don't know what it is, but you can't take a tuxedo and 6 different pairs of khakis in different varying shades. But so yes, I left all that behind and joined, and I, to be honest, I didn't even pass the physical, the first physical at the recruiter's office. I didn't weigh enough. I'd always been really skinny and really thin, and they have a minimum requirement, and so I had convinced the recruiter in my lies about not being gay. I had said, he'd asked me, just point blank, looked at me, are you gay? And I'm like, no. And then I went down to take the physical, and I failed. I didn't weigh enough. However, I had 8 days before we shipped out, and he said, just gain some weight. And I thought, I haven't gained weight my entire life. But with the help of my best friend and Snickers
Carbs,
bars,
lots of carbs.
we binged for 8 days, and I gained 11 of the pounds. Now you'll have to read the book to see how I got in, still 3 pounds shy, but I did rely on some additional material.
Would that be like weights in your shoes? Do they let you do stuff like that?
It was not weights in the shoes. You're barefoot. You're just there weighing it in your underwear. But
wow.
Anyway, so I did stay 6 years. I had a great time. That was the foundation that I honestly could not have found elsewhere in the world.
I bet not.
It was
I
great.
bet not. No, I'm an Army brat.
Did you move around a lot?
No, my mother and father were divorced when I was quite young. So I did, although I wanted to go into the Army because I wanted to be with my father.
Did you seriously consider enlisting?
Yeah, I was 7. I mean, they weren't going to take me. No, but that,
7 is a rough age to enlist.
yeah.
Yeah. That's
But
hard.
I would have had 5 suitcases, so.
Right? Who
How
wouldn't?
do you, I mean, why not? I mean, Sammy Davis Jr. used to have the greatest idea for packing. If you like it, take it.
How many suitcases would Sammy Davis Jr. show up with when he was at a gig?
Just the clothes and the little teeny tiny tuxes. There's a whole suitcase. There was that trunk that had his number 10 tin cans, say that 3 times, because he liked to cook.
Oh,
yeah.
I did not know that. Very nice.
Very heavy. So I looked like a lightweight with just a couple of bags. What, you're only staying overnight?
I like,
Okay.
you need options.
And on that note, I'm going to ask you to hang on to that for 1 second because I've got more that I want to ask you.
I'll be right here.
Of course I do. I do, I will. I'm having the toughest time with my teeth today. Had them all my life, just can't do a thing with them today. So anyway, we're going to take a quick little break here. And when we come back, we'll tell you more about the wonderful life of Greg Cope White. See you in a minute.
To be at peace with myself is the most prominent thing, and I am at peace with myself. I didn't deal this deck, I'm just playing the game. That's all. That's it. Meals on Wheels has given me a mode of freedom that I wouldn't have otherwise. And making sure that I get the nutrition that I need, and it's a balanced meal. My name is Maurice McGriff. America, let's do lunch.
Drop off a hot meal and say hello. Volunteer by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
You know, farmers get to use that drop of rain before anybody else does. But in doing so, we have a responsibility to make sure when that water, if it does leave our farm, leaves it in such a way that it doesn't affect people downstream. You know, we live in a system. You know, the things I do affect people downstream, and everybody along the way has an impact on that. And I guess as a farmer, you know, I feel it's important for me to be aware of that and to do the things I can do to protect that water.
And welcome back. I'm here today with author, producer, writer, and I'm now going to bring something else up. Greg also has a cooking show. It's on the Cooking Channel, am I correct?
Cooking Channel, Unique Sweets. I eat desserts, which probably is the wrong show to talk about with.
Trust me, God gave me plenty of insulin for this show. I'm ready for you. So do you
Desserts.
just talk about desserts or do you prepare them?
Does the Marine just talk about? No, we do it. I don't prepare them. I eat them.
Oh, wow.
I would prepare them.
Yeah,
I'd go home and and copy them. Sure.
Well, I've seen some of your photos on Facebook of some of your cookery.
I made an apple pie Monday night. It was so good.
Never met one I didn't like, but okay. I like to cook, but I'm a crummy baker. I'm always afraid I'm going to blow something up. When you're cooking, there aren't that many chemical reactions that can really happen. I have seen a cake on my ceiling, which was very quickly back on my face.
That's the difference. You just have to measure, follow the instructions exactly. You can't substitute this for that.
That's a Marine for you.
You can decrease the sugar is the only ingredient you can mess with. And I usually do. I usually cut the sugar in half and then add a little bit more. But you don't need nearly as much sugar as most recipes call for.
That's true. Can you substitute? Now, I know about agave. Does that only go into liquids, or can one use that?
You could if you were creaming the batter, but then you'd have to taste it because agave tastes a little bit sweeter, so it wouldn't be cup for cup. Like if you're using gluten-free flour for regular flour, there is cup for cup in that. So you can buy a bag of gluten-free flour and you can measure it cup for cup and make a gluten-free cake, and it performs.
But you don't have to tell anybody you're doing that either, do you?
No need. And there's plenty of gluten-free desserts. One of my favorite desserts is a Claudia Rosen recipe. She serves it around Passover, and it's all almond flour. It's almond flour, oranges, and eggs, and it's just a great cake. You don't need to know that it's because you couldn't have certain ingredients.
That's the way.
It's just a great cake. My favorite cake. Freezes amazing.
Okay, well, this time I have a book, and next time I'm holding out for the cake, okay? But just saying.
Books I have to sell. Cakes, I'd have to come to your house and bake one, and that gets creepy.
Oh, gee, I would hate that. Anyway, really, buy the book. Buy the book. It's wonderful. You're wonderful. And I'm so happy you're here. Are you looking at the food?
Well,
I tried to lick most of it off.
What were you eating when you were reading this? Cake? Pasta.
I am a pasta holic.
I've got a great new pasta recipe. Oh, I love it.
I don't know. I think your life is pretty groovy.
I
wouldn't mind stepping into that. But your sense of organization and orderliness, if you will, is not mine.
Well, that probably came from the Marines.
Huh?
That probably came from the Marines. They do instill discipline. They're great with.
You didn't meet my mother, did you? I'm kidding.
But she probably took some stuff from your dad. She probably learned a schedule watching him run an Army life. I'm assuming he was an officer. Yeah,
yes,
so
he was.
She probably, he commanded troops. He probably was impressive, and you probably picked that up from him. You understood presence, right?
I did.
How to command a room.
And that was before I started singing, right?
Yeah, but you could have had a singing career even after the Army.
Well, when I roll this back, I'll think about making those changes. I'm easy. Well, I don't. Well, yeah, I am.
That would have worked well in the Army. Just saying.
Not when you're the CO's daughter.
Well, yes, you would have had a certain armor around you.
I remember once at the officers' club, my father at the time had been named military attaché to Germany. And I was living in Switzerland at the time and flew into Cologne to get to Bad Godesberg. My father picks me up. Off to the officers' club we go. And he left me in front of the coat check and went in to look for his wife, who was already there. And these two young captains were standing behind me. Who are you? We've never seen you here. Who are you here to see? Colonel Eisenson. They took one step back. Well, how do you know Colonel Eisenson? Well, he's my father. History.
That shuts it down right there.
There was no more conversation, but I wish we had another hour because I know I would have plenty of conversation with you. Is there anything that you want to leave us with that you're burning to share?
I just think with any good story, I was thinking about this. I was thinking about you driving over here and thinking about, and we were just talking about a mutual friend of ours with your producer. Everybody, it's not just my story that's in this book. It's a story of all the people that I served with. Mm-hmm. And there's not a person in in that book, and there's not a person in our life, including you and including everybody in this room and people at home, there's not a person that didn't crawl over, a person that's still here, that didn't crawl over a pile of rocks to survive and go through some struggle. Sometimes, especially people living with the chronic disease, it's a daily struggle that you do. So I think overcoming adversity and becoming successful is just through perseverance, and that, if anything, of going to the Marine Corps to teach me that, but I just hope that that everybody just understands that everybody has a struggle.
Wouldn't it be nice if they could make that part of a class for children and teach them perseverance? I find that not so much of that comes from the parents anymore, and it needs to come so the kids know it's even on the menu.
Just persevere. These kids that are protesting today, the kids that walked out yesterday, those are the kids we're going to see them in leadership positions. Take a stand.
That was just...
It's a tragedy. These school shootings have been awful, and I certainly have every opinion about that. Being a military person, I definitely do not want to see any teachers armed, but I want to see these students armed. If you arm classrooms with strong students and dedicated teachers, that's all the ammunition you need.
Well, let's pray for that. Then, ladies and gentlemen, help me thank Greg Cope White, and looking forward to seeing you here again. Yay, yo!
Anytime, thanks.
Now I'll show the rest of it. But really, thanks for being here. It's always a pleasure with you. As we go to break, I would like to shout out the important work of the Diabetes Research Institute and to encourage you to please support their efforts. You can visit them online at diabetesresearch.org. By the way, I hope everybody is safe there in Florida down by the university after that bridge crash this morning. But back to the DRI. Follow them, read them, learn from them. If you can, contribute financially with your writing, with your stories. They're open to us, and they want to hear from us. Tell them Bonnie sent you. They'll say, who? Oh, no. Okay. I knew he would like that. Isn't it nice working with the living? Okay, so the next thing we're going to do now, I should have had more coffee. There's just no doubt about it. Is we're going to have a little video, and then we're going to play our song of the day, which is Spider Saloff's Fascinating Rhythm. We'll be back.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To not look the other way. It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Type 1 diabetes can be living in anyone.
Type 1 diabetes is when your pancreas doesn't produce insulin. It's not caused by your diet. It's not caused by anything you did.
Type 1 diabetes can be very serious.
Blindness, amputation.
Learn more about type 1 diabetes.
Help support JDRF finding a cure.
T1D looks like my brother.
T1D looks like a friend.
Type 1 diabetes looks like me.
Got a little rhythm, a rhythm, a rhythm that pitter-pats through my brain. So darn persistent, the day isn't distant when it'll drive me insane. Comes in the morning without any warning and hangs around all the day. I'll have to sneak up to it someday and speak up to it. I hope it listens when I say, fascinating rhythm, you got me on the go. Fascinating rhythm, I'm all a quiver. What a mess you're making, the neighbors neighbors want to know why I'm always shaking just like a flivver. Each morning I get up with the sun, start a hopping, never stopping, to find at night no work has been done. I know that once it didn't matter, but now you're doing wrong when you start to patter. I'm so unhappy. Won't you take a day off, decide to run along somewhere far away off and make it snappy? Oh, how I long to be the girl I used to be. Fascinating rhythm, oh, won't you stop picking on me? Fascinating rhythm, you got me on the go. Fascinating rhythm, I'm all a quiver. What a mess you're making, the neighbors want to know why I'm always shaking just like a flivver. Each morning I get up with the sun, start a hopping, never stopping, to find at night no work has been done. I know that once it didn't matter, but now you're doing wrong when you start to patter. I'm so unhappy. Won't you take a day off, decide to run along somewhere far away off and make it snappy? Oh, how I long to be the girl I used to be. Fascinating rhythm, fascinating rhythm, fascinating rhythm. Oh, won't you stop picking on me? Got a little rhythm.
Welcome back to the Bonnie Sher Show, Boomer Life. My co-host for this segment is Jacob Chojnacki, who is a member of the T1D community from Illinois. Welcome, Jacob. I have a camera over here, but I'm looking at you over here, so if I keep looking back and forth so I can see that cute face of yours, welcome. Jacob, you're a T1 and you are living well with your type 1. Please share your story with us.
Sure. Well, first of all, you did a great job on pronouncing my last name. It's been
bless you, even if you're lying.
And no, you did fantastic, Bonnie. So thank you.
Oh, and I love that Chicago accent. I just love it.
I can't tell I have it, but that's what everybody tells me.
I'd listened to my mother for many years, who continued to call her favorite word was asshole. He's a real asshole. I go, Ma. Yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
It's the long A, you know.
Yeah, but it's so cold. You have to do something to stay warm, and if a long A is your route to warmth, well, okay.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. For me, I was diagnosed as a lot of type 1s at a young age. I was 11 years old. In fact, we didn't really think that I had it. I was, peeing and drinking a lot. My mother was type 1, and also my brother is as well. But I remember when I was 11 that I mentioned to my mother, I said, I've been up all night, I wasn't sleeping, and I was peeing and drinking. And she said, oh boy, that sounds like it could be.
Sounds familiar. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And so I was like, no, I don't think so. And so the next couple of days it continued to happen. And I went in and I got a glucose draw from a blood draw. And I was at 237. So I was still early on. I wasn't, real high. I wasn't in DKA. I was very fortunate that I detected the signs and the symptoms early.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in, and at that time, you know, it was around 88, and you were in for like a week. So they regulated you and
taught you how to inject. Did you
yes,
get an orange?
Yes. Using the orange. I had the Pink Panther book at that time. So we had the Pink Panther book. And then at that time, they were still teaching you about exchanges. I don't even think they talked about carbohydrate grams.
We didn't hear about that.
So I went through the week there, and then I began life as a T1D. At that time in school, there was maybe one other girl that I knew. Today, it was quite rare. I mean, if you knew someone who was a T1D, you'd be so shocked. You'd be so happy that there was somebody else. And yet today, we've seen such a rise in the incidence of type 1. So I went through school. I didn't have the best control in high school. Did a little bit better in college, and I went on an insulin pump and things like that. And my control was okay. And then probably about 25, 26 years in, I went to a routine eye exam, and they said that I had background retinopathy. And that completely rocked my world.
I'll bet it did.
I, you know, just like anybody, if any type 1 diabetic is out there and they've had a complication or was told something, it can really mess you up. And so at first I was pretty much numb from it all. I didn't really know what to do. And then just like with anything in diabetes and being a type 1, you have to be your own advocate. So I started doing a lot of research, trying to find out more about, was I going to lose my vision? What kind of things were going to happen to me? And so that kind of began this process, this journey of looking into all kinds of different options and treatments. I changed my endocrinologist, my current endocrinologist, Dr. Gregory Clark. He's a type 1 diabetic himself. I started doing low carbohydrate diet, following Dr. Bernstein. And I kind of gradually began to normalize my glucose a little bit more, but I still had some issues going on with the eyes. It wasn't resolving itself. You know, I mean, if it takes, 25 years or so to get these complications, it's not going to resolve within 6 months, a year, or even 2 years. Some of these things take a long time.
On their own, and some never do. I mean,
yeah, exactly. So it led me on more of a research level where I began to seek out, medical research papers and other sources where they were treating retinopathy, and what are some options that I could pursue? Because really, for most of us, it was if you have retinopathy and if it goes into any proliferative or macular edema, you're going to have to do laser treatments. And I knew that laser, I knew it's gotten a little better, but I knew that it was damaging to the eye. I knew that it was not something I really wanted to have to experience. And so, I started searching on, are there alternatives to, to laser treatments? Is there other things that I could be doing
what
besides?
About the injections in the eye? That always kept me real honest. I mean,
oh yeah. Well,
I actually told the doctor that if he was going to continue and wanted to really use this on me, that he better take me out of his office down in the bank into the basement, because I promised him I would clear out his waiting room. It's just
Yeah. Well, I felt the same way about that, and I also felt the same way about laser. However, I did find out that early on, injections could be used for proliferative disease, and you could avoid some laser. So this led me on a quest, and I found not only about the injections working for the eyes instead of laser for proliferative retinopathy, but I also started researching about some newer treatments. I actually went to a website, and it was I started doing a Google search on alternative treatments for diabetic retinopathy. And I found a treatment out of the United Kingdom called the Noctura 400 eye mask, which it's an eye mask that when when you're a diabetic, I mean, you can control the things that you can control, but the things that you can control, you can't control. Well, when you're sleeping at night, I understood through a number of medical research papers that we have what's called rods and cones in our eyes. Now, the cones are active during the day, and that's where, our daytime, we use our cones. But at night, we use our rods, and there's more than, I think it's like 300 million rods compared to the cones. And what that simply means is that when you're sleeping, the demand for oxygen and nutrients in your rods go way up. It's almost like, think of a fire hose going through a garden hose. And for many diabetics that have had damage to their eyes, they will have problems at night. In fact, if you talk to a lot of people who've had retinopathy, they'll tell you that floaters and things will happen first thing in the morning. So it indicates that there's something going on at night that this company began to really intrigue me. And so I looked into this device. It's the eye mask. It was the Noctura 400. And the research was basically stating, look, if we could fool the rods to think that it wasn't nighttime, but we wouldn't fool the cones to think that it was daytime, so you wouldn't stay awake and mess up your melatonin, then it would allow, less oxygen to come to your eye, which would then prevent all of the fire hose that was going on and the proliferative retinopathy, the macular edema to happen. And so all of this research was amazing. I was really excited. Well, I called up the company because I thought, is it in the United States? I wasn't sure where it was at. And they let me know that, we're not FDA approved, and that if I wanted to receive the mask, I would need to travel there. So I was, like I said, we got to be our own advocate. So I decided to gather up my money. I got some money out of savings. I tried to do the best I could. I got some cheap flights. I went there with my stepfather. We flew over there. I rented a car, drove on the other side of the road, which was really exciting.
Challenging, yeah.
And I drove to the facility, to a clinic there. They tested my eyes. It was legitimate, great company. And lo and behold, I received the eye mask. And so I started using the eye mask, and I have started, along with all the other things, I started to see great improvement in my retinopathy. So things were.
So how long have you been using the eye mask for now?
You know what? It's been about 2 years. And I have seen great stability with my retinopathy. I've seen it improve. I've seen,
I've never heard about, and I would imagine there are lots of our viewers, listeners, and maybe who are type 1, and maybe they haven't been diagnosed yet. But it's always waiting for another shoe to drop, or at least for me, I'm coming up on 50 years next week. The complications started after about 30 years, and the hits just keep on coming. But to hear something that is not invasive, that is this helpful, I'm going to turn this over to you for a minute, and because we're running a little short on time, and I want to make sure that everybody knows how to reach you, how to find the group on Facebook, any information that you can give us so folks can join up. and be able to thank you. I thank you right now for sharing this with us.
Yes,
so I'll
absolutely.
stop talking now and give you a chance to do everything I just asked you to do.
No, I mean, thank you. I think the best way to follow me, I'm not very out there on a lot of, personal Twitter pages or whatever, but if people wanted to talk to me or follow me, I'm a part of a lot of different Facebook groups, but the big one that I'm doing with another gentleman named Patrick McCrossan, and that is DIY Diabetes Retinopathy Solutions. And so if you go to Facebook and you wanted to be a part of that group, it's DIY Diabetes Retinopathy Solutions. There it is. Yeah, it came right up. So that is a place where you could go. You can join.
That's why I employ my producer. He gets right to the heart of the matter, Otherwise, he's not cute. He's not nice. I get rid of him. But boy, is he fast.
That's right. Yeah. So, but that's the best way to reach me. And, my thing I'd like to share with all of your viewers out there is, that there is hope. You don't have to suffer. There are, some newer treatment methods that are out there. There are some new protocols that are out there that, people in the diabetes, the T1D community have, worked with, myself included, that we have found some great results following, not only the new treatment, but also these new protocols. Typical things that you would expect, but just done in kind of a planned way. So, there is hope, and it can be very discouraging when, you feel that you've heard that you have a complication or multiple complications. But there's a lot that can be done to change that situation and make it for the better.
Well, you're a wonderful spokesperson for it. I mean, you made it very understandable. I know you've, pardon the pun, opened a lot of eyes with the, I'm sorry, it slipped out when I wasn't looking.
No, that's good.
Yeah, well,
and one more quick thing is that with the Noctura, I did go there and I did get it. It's something that is getting closer and closer to FDA approval.
So for the present time, one needs to go to the UK, or will they?
They do. I mean, it's clinically available in Europe, the Middle East, and France. I mean, it is really well known in the other parts of the world, but you know how the FDA is. And so it's just taking a little more time here. But, you can go and get the mask. You do need to travel to the UK to get it.
I kind of like that idea too. Okay, I'll see you at the airport. And Jacob, thank you so very much. We'll keep rooting and talking. You be well. Thanks for being with me today. If any of my other T1 viewer listeners would like to sit in the chair, as it were, as my T1 co-host, it's very simple. Email me, Bonnie@BonnieSher.com. We'll come up with a date and you'll be on. It's that easy, so please. Now, next up is our Boomer News, and then a couple views from my soapbox. I'm ready for them. Be back in a minute.
I live in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm a social worker. When I found out that I had hepatitis C, I was a single mother, and I was absolutely terrified.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, estimates there are close to 3 million baby boomers infected with hepatitis C. Because there can be no symptoms for decades, most don't even know it. But if detected in time, Hep C can be cured, and the treatment is simple.
Today I feel great. I'm a healthy 65-year-old. I bike to work, I go to the gym, and I've cleared the virus.
The CDC is urging everybody born between 1945 and 1965 to get tested. It's an easy one-time blood test that may be covered by insurance.
I got a disease that could have killed me, but I saved my own life by getting tested.
Don't wait. Ask your doctor about getting tested for Hep C. because knowing is everything.
Welcome back. And now it's time for my soapbox. You know, my take on who should be ashamed, really, and on the other hand, who's to be congratulated. So let's start with my shout out, which is to Wes Alford, who is a member of the diabetes community. Although he's a type 2, he has a child that's type 1. And they are from the great state of Arizona. Now, what Wes is setting out to do on the 17th is he will be hiking for a cure. At this point, let me tell you, for even more information, I want you to go to hikingforacure.com to see more about this. But this man is about to commence on a 2,650-mile hike from the border of Mexico up to the border of Canada. They expect it's going to take him about 5 months to do this hike. He readily admits that the most he's ever hiked is 20 miles. So we will be following here on the Bonnie Sher Show, and we just wish him the best of luck. He will be, pardon me, this is all to help raise awareness and to raise funds for JDRF. So keep him in your thoughts and give him a little root along the way if you happen to see him along the route. Okay, now my shout time. Are you kidding me? How did this work? Okay, calm down, Bonnie. Many of you have heard about this already recently in the news. This occurred on United Airlines. A family, it was a mom, her daughter, and an infant, and they brought their new 9-month-old puppy along and paid the extra $200 to keep said puppy in the cabin. Well, the flight attendant felt that little bag was jutting somewhere too far, took the bag and put the bag in the overhead. What was the outcome after 3 hours? The dog was dead. I can't even imagine. And I don't know how she can possibly apologize. I mean, it seemed I was ready for her to say, "Oh, my bad. Please, you killed this family's family member. Could you please take a little more responsibility than my bad?" That's that about that. So, before we say goodbye, I've already said goodbye to her, right? I'd like to thank my guest today. That's Greg Cope White and I screwed up Jacob now. So worried about his last name, I blew it on his first. Okay, his name is Jacob Chojnacki, and I'm going to spell it. It's Chojnacki. So thank you both very much for being with me today. And that is our show for this week. I'm glad you could be here with us, and I hope you'll return next week for another 50-minute trip through the land of Bonnie, the land of entertainment, the land of boomers, and, of course, my near and dear Type 1 community. Until then, you could help me out, and I'd like you to please visit BonnieSher.com. You could follow the number 1 Bonnie Sher on Twitter and like the Bonnie Sings Lena Facebook fan page. Got all that? Moving on. Lastly, many of you by now are aware of the special relationship that I had with Sammy Davis Jr. He was my mentor and he was my friend. And I like to end each show sort of Carol Burnett style with a wink and a nod and a miss you, Mr. D. This one's for you.